All right, y'all. Another session. Class is in session. Cannon's class, and I'm honored to be sitting with one of my personal professors and mentors, someone who's been guiding my entire academic career thus far. Like, I'm so in debt to this powerful woman, but to give you just a short run of her accomplishments and accolades, she is the creator and founder of Policing Inside Out. She has a new book that you can pre-order right now called Mothering in the Field. The illustrious and profound Dr. Muhammad. Doc, I appreciate you rocking with me on this episode of Cannon's class.
I'm excited.
Excited. Now, when excitement isn't the word, because we've been in the field together, I would say, in a lot of these facilities of incarceration. And when you walk into these jails, these prisons, you bring a different type of light. You bring a different type of energy that I've never seen, not from a professor, not from a preacher, not from, even an entertainer. Like, it's something, it's inspiration, it's hope, but it's in a package of power. You know what I mean? Like, you go in, you don't be holding no punches. You be talking to these cats who are serving real sentences, doing football numbers, like, and with no fear, you step in there and do more than just hold your own. There's a reverence that I see, and I wanted to bring a little bit of that to Cannon's class as we talk about, mass incarceration, and even just I would say our framing question for today is, what is mass incarceration? And then I would, I would even say, aside of that, I would go to the statement of slavery is still legal.
Absolutely.
And obviously you've studied this. You've studied administration of justice, and that's where your doctorate is, and even criminology, and even breaking down, which a couple of our classes we had that you opened my eyes to, of the difference between sociology and criminology. Is really just the study of black men. Criminology is ultimately that, like, of just being and that statement alone, just when you think about that, criminology is the study of a black man, and that blew my mind. Like, so because when you think of things to be criminalized, and even when why study a black man, and why has the whole concept of criminology even been created, and then it goes all the way back to being a black man and what that means in America, and going back to the property mentality of ultimately, this system was never designed for us or set up for us to win or succeed as citizens. We were always property. And then when it comes to policing, and even, once they police you where they put you back into slavery, that cycle is just, it's apparent, but it's disguised by so many different things and so much rhetoric and propaganda that we get lost in the idea of, like, this is what they always thought of us, and this is how they were always classified.
Absolutely. You have a whole lot of info in that little session, but I see you've been listening.
I've been listening.
You've been listening and operationalizing. Like, okay, because sometimes you're a little quiet.
It don't fall on deaf ears. I'm taking it all in.
Okay. Yeah, sociology, criminology is a tough thing. A lot of individuals feel like they just want to hide criminology under sociology, under this discipline where it's about understanding words and understanding rhetoric and understanding why the language that you use bothers, where criminology is a little bit more vicious, but under the umbrella of sociology, it's kind of like, it kind of gets that kind of non-listening ear.
Right.
When in fact, when you start looking at the questions behind a lot of those theories in criminology, strain theory, why is crime concentrated in the lower class? Bro, why are you not looking at any other classes? Like, why do we start there?
Right.
Then when you look a little bit deeper and dig, between and pull back the layers of the onion, it's kind of like this concept where's white collar criminals?
Yeah.
Just completely omitted from the data that's collected, from the statistics.
And those are the biggest criminals when you look at the amount of money they're creating, the amount of lives that are lost. Like, when you jump into the worlds of big pharma, Wall Street, banking, all of that stuff. These people, even when they get sentenced, they serving real sentences.
Yep.
Them federal crimes,
Yep.
them cats, them Bernie Madoffs, and
Yeah, I
you know,
took students to live in a facility
Yeah.
where, you know, Martha Stewart was incarcerated,
Right.
Beanie Shakur, Billie Holiday,
Yeah.
you know, white collar criminals, so that the students could see
yeah,
everything ain't taking you back to slavery, because they were not enslaved there. They
Right.
had rules and regulations. Let's not get it wrong.
yeah. But they was living.
Yeah, they were living. They had flowers.
Better than some of us.
Yeah, no cages, no
Yeah.
lock and no keys. It was more dormitory style. They're looking at COs in the face. They have a doggy program. They're able to have
Wait,
students.
hold up. They got a doggy program in
There's a
federal
program
prisons?
where they, you know, they train.
Wow.
They train the animals, and they're allowed to live with them, and they build
Yeah.
relationships and talk about being able to be rehabilitated,
Yeah.
you know?
And that's really the process going back, like, or the purpose of these type of facilities is to be able to be reinstated into society better than you were before you went in.
Absolutely. Let's keep it all the way 100.
Yeah.
When you messing with federal dollars,
Yeah.
I'm going to fix you.
Yeah.
But if you're messing with state money,
Money.
I'm just not going to give you no programming. I'm going to throw you back out. I'm not
Yeah.
going to deal with your
I'm
drug
gonna
issues.
hold you in this kennel, and then if I
Exactly.
can make some money off you, I'm gonna really do that as well, and that's slavery. So, and I always make that strong statement, and I'm gonna say it again today. I think they should do away with all prisons. And when I say that, people always say, "Well, then what's your solution for criminals, or what's your solution to deal with people who need to be incarcerated?" And you gave a strong answer to that.
Education.
Simple
When
as
I
that.
think about the reality of a doctoral program,
Yeah.
having to read books, having to read the reality of what my ancestors were faced with, what I'm being faced with immediately in the program, getting individuals just to sign off on a study.
Yeah. Wow. People
It
don't get that.
hurts.
They don't understand it.
It hurts.
So make it as simple as it is, Doc. And I love this concept. When somebody commits a crime, instead of sending them to jail, send them to college.
Send them to college.
Send 'em-
Make them read about
yeah,
what they did. Have
yeah.
them understand.
And you got to get
the
a degree.
victim
You got to
impact
get your degree to
statement.
get
Yes,
out
yes,
of the
yes.
incarcerated
And you're going to get a
facility.
job automatically. So now you're going to work. Put it to work
Immediately.
immediately.
So it's like, and that's the thing, like even the concept, I love the concept of it, depending on if the mindset is changed. But even when I had the opportunity to go to the Inside Out program that you set up for me in Pennsylvania, where I spent a week with lifers,
Yeah.
them brothers have doctorates in incarceration, and I love the concept that not only was their mind strong, but their bodies were strong. And that's the thing when people are like, oh, we're sending people to prison, and they come out even like these mega monsters now.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like I watch these guys who are serving 20 to 25 years not only build their bodies, but they build their minds and their
Absolutely.
spirits. And I learned more from a lot of those guys in a week's amount of time about this system than I could ever learn in a classroom.
Absolutely.
And it was because they're living it
Yeah.
in a different way. So if that process, if somebody really put a magnifying glass on the process of rehabilitation, I think if we speak on that just a little bit, to instead of using these facilities to make money off of our so-called criminals, but if we were really trying to rehabilitate these individuals and let them be strong members of society,
Yeah.
for not only for their community, but for the families that they create, for the children that they have.
Yes.
Because again, growing up, prison was a rite of passage. You know, my grandfather went, my pops did time, like all of these type of things. I was like, dang, when I'm going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Crazy.
Like that's when I'm gonna get my stripes. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I think Chris Rock said it the best. We celebrate, you know, the cats who come home from prison more than we celebrate the cats who come home from college.
Yeah.
But imagine if we brought all of that together.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
imagine if that
It
was
would
that
stop it.
same process.
It would seize it. It would
Yeah.
seize it. At the DC jail now, it's interesting in serving as a fellow at the DC jail. One of the things
that was go ahead. That was a bar. That was she's serving as a fellow at the DC jail.
one of the
Talk your
things
talk.
that like it gives you the opportunity to have, you know, an institution. If you think about it, the Department of Corrections in the nation's capital is the full department.
Right.
Where in other states you're talking
'Cause it's
about
the state
20,
and
30,
federal. Yeah, yeah.
all into one, you know,
Yeah.
and it's only one. You go
Right.
there and either you're getting shipped out
to
into
a
the Bureau of
federal,
Prisons,
yeah.
or you're just staying there and going home.
And that's very specific to DC because, as we all know, DC is not a state, you know. So other areas and other different facilities, state facilities that I've personally been to, as well as I know you've been all over the world, the structure is completely different in these facilities. So I see the DC jail as a very unique experience because you're kind of getting a little bit of what a state prison is and what a federal system is.
Teach, Cannon. Teach.
But so obviously there's pros and cons to it all. But when you see these individuals on the inside, from what I've witnessed and, you know, in our programs, they're looking to change.
There's nothing like a district, period.
Right,
There's
right.
nothing like a district. You will not find a system where you have federal beds, where you have state beds. It's like having the state, the federal, and the city all into one. You will not find that anywhere in the world. And specifically at an institution like that, you can utilize education in ways that you wouldn't necessarily be able to use. For example, in the federal system, there are policies and programs that are put into place. If you are disabled and you are a youth, they don't have to give you programming. That's only in the state level. So you go there, we send you to the feds, it's a wrap for you. There's no books for you. There's no programs for you.
Right.
And you can't even sue.
Wow.
So when we talk about education, as soon as you get locked up and you think you going into booking, you getting, you know, your orange jumpsuit, you getting your toothbrush, your flip-flops, you getting that hard little washcloth and your bag that you're going to take with you, it's a book in there.
Yeah.
Souls of Black folk.
Right. W.E.B. Du Bois.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Now you sitting in your cell, you crying because you by yourself and you trying to cry before you go to general population.
Yeah.
But now you reading about the soul of who you really was.
Yeah.
So now you're not going to go under a rock. Now you got to face yourself.
And it's going to talk about, and then even to that level, because let's be honest, you know, a lot of these incarcerated brothers and sisters who go in, their reading level may not be, they've never opened a book on that. You know, they skimmed it or they saw them in school, but never really reading a book from beginning to end. What that does for you, even that process of, you know, me personally having sat down with, you know, brothers like, you know, Freeway Ricky Ross, you know what I mean? And knowing that before he went in, well, first of all, he's a millionaire drug lord, all of that stuff, but never knew how to read, but taught himself how to read. And then after that process, then even like from his reading, from his studying, actually got an appeal on his case and overturned a life sentence. Mm-hmm. So even that process of when you can empower somebody with just education, you know, and because as Black folk, we already have that enlightenment, that richness within us. It just has to be guided for this system.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what you know, I see you doing it daily, you know, with inspiring and enriching these individuals that are incarcerated and showing them that they can be so much more than what the system says.
Yeah, and showing them who they are, period. Like at the end of the day, you fly.
Yeah.
Like you have melanin. Like you just you can't buy that
melanin
in a store.
What they say is the most expensive commodity on the stock market.
Yeah, like you just don't wake up with swag. Like it's just a reminder, you know, through reading and through knowledge, even if you don't pick up the book, that you feel it. Right. You may open it to one page, read 2 words, and close it. Like, come at your own time. But when prisons were created, it was about that. Yeah. Individuals got incarcerated. They got locked up. There was a huge window. It was about repentance. That's where you get the penitentiaries from. Yeah. It was about going in and praying and praying and praying and praying and asking for forgiveness. Wow. You always got a book when you went in. We flipped that. Right. Now we want you to be a worker. We want to slave you. We want to work you for cheap labor. Yeah. So we're not going to let you read. That's what they did to the
that 13th Amendment. Yeah. That's real. And
so you bring it back.
And like even touching on that for a second, because to go to, you know, Ava DuVernay's documentary 13, or even, you know, to Michelle Alexander's the new Jim Crow, a lot of those they put the issues and the problems out there. But to me, where, you know, I commend you and say you even taking it a step further, you're actually doing something about it. You're not just repeating the rhetoric. It's not just, we all know that there's an issue. I can sit here and list every statistic from, black men being the most incarcerated individuals. We're only 13% of the population, but over 60% of the prison population. We know all of this stuff, but what are we going to do about it?
Absolutely.
And I think it goes back even further. Because education is always going to be the answer, but it's like, a lot of people talk about the school to prison pipeline, which is a very real thing. But I think I like to call it the cradle to the incarceration pipeline, because it starts at home. It starts at they automatically know, based off of the amount of people that are born in our communities, how many prisons to build.
Yeah.
And it even goes back. I remember that book, Freakonomics, kind of started this crazy debate or conversation of after Roe versus Wade was passed, from legalized abortions in the states where abortion was legalized, that the crime rates went down.
Yeah.
And statistics show that, but then people were able to take that information and flip it in so many different ways. That was like, these black women can't take care of their kids, or the more really black kids that we kill, the less crime is going to be in our cities, which is a crazy concept. But ultimately, that just shows what they think about us. They think that, we see you're born as criminals. Yeah. And that goes back to that idea of criminology, to where they feel like there's studies and statistics that show that, crime, for every black baby that's born, the crime rate is going to increase. Yeah. And ultimately, I feel like we have to be the ones to change that.
Yeah, it's no other way. I mean, Race to Incarcerate, the graphic retelling, I think we used that the first semester, first class that we had. It's kind of like a comic book, so people are looking at it thinking it's a joke,
dope,
but it's
too.
vicious.
We going to put a little bit of that up just so they could see, but it's like, just so you understand what it is, it's like, it's a race. It's literally a race. And you probably seen the little memes and stuff of it, but it's like, it starts with some white people at the starting line and some black people at the starting line. And when the starting pistol goes off, the white people take off, and then the black people just there for a minute. And that just show, it's really just symbolism of the race in America, of how white people have a head start, and then
the unequal opportunity race. And I think what we're talking about in terms of education during incarceration, it allows you to catch up. That's what reading does. It allows you to catch up.
It gives you your Jordans.
It gives you that opportunity to have options.
We started with no shoes, but we gonna
I want to skate in on my Gators, or I want to run in my Jordans, or whatever. At the end of the day, though, all jokes aside, it's kind of like that, slave mentality is, the new Jim Crow looks at those sort of issues and kind of plays with those concepts. Right. But it's a difficult conversation where it's been flipped on us, where now we are the ones that are kind of serving as the oppressor within our own households. We're not talking about incarceration, or we're disciplining the children of incarcerated parents by beating them with the bitter reality, you're going to be just like your daddy. Not in a good way, but in a bad way. Not telling the children the truth and punishing them with the reality of what they need. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. It's one of the books that I use, one of the workbooks that I use, and it really talks about how there was a point in time when being ignorant was something you played in a slave field for your kids to save them from being victimized, from being killed, or, just being taken advantage of. But now we're not looking at that. So why are we doing it now? Why are we beating our babies down now?
That's powerful. You said PTSD, post-traumatic slave syndrome. You know what I mean? Like we're all... we're still dealing with that concept, and I always talk about reconditioning the mindsets, but to be able to say, like, this is what you are supposed to be. You know what I mean? This is, again, that property mentality. We've been policed as property, and now they want to classify, so we don't see anything beyond that.
Yeah, we can't make it easy. We can't make it easy by giving up on the kids, because let's get to the reality of why enslavement was so successful. Was because of the destruction of the family, of the black man, of that unit. The same thing happens when you invite stigmatization in your house. So disrespecting somebody because they're incarcerated or being stigmatized, that's just a social phenomenon. But when you bring that into your house and now you're using that to discipline your child, you invited that negativity in.
So then so to that point, what do you say to the people who are either listening or watching this to say, like, oh, that's just an excuse? or again, we've heard this for so long that, I need to pull myself up by my own bootstraps.
I
But
would
even
say don't believe the hype. Like at the
Yeah.
end of the day, one of the recent publications that I have out, kicking the door, waving the 4-4, looking
Hey.
at how, during
Bars.
arrests, officers are, coming into these homes with, guns out and going crazy. And what these children are seeing. I mean, like they're carrying that forever. You can't believe the hype to say that just because they saw that their life is over.
Yeah.
They've seen their parents butchered down, beat, hanging from trees as, weird fruit and all of these sort of things
Yeah.
and still survived.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if we're going to believe that phenomenon that you went from a slave to a criminal,
Right.
then come on, let's bounce up with that rhetoric.
Yeah.
And let's realize that there is success and there is resiliency.
I was about to say
and
resilience.
our children are that.
Yeah.
Once you start highlighting those sort of things, you already trump slavery, because slavery is about not having your own, not being an individual, being told what to do.
Right. And that idea of building strength
Yes.
through genealogy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so even when you talk about the race to incarceration, it's like, I always tell people, yeah, there's going to be hurdles around the way, but hurdles are meant to jump over. And when you have that concept of, yeah, I know I got off to a false start, but it just made me stronger as a people. And so when you understand the power of overcoming adversity,
Yeah.
Imagine it. They always say, imagine if we did all have the same start.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we didn't have that, and we're still prevailing.
Exactly.
So now
And
that's
have
what we teach.
superseded.
That's what we teach the children.
That's what you teach them. ISIS Papers. Frances
Yeah,
Cress Welsing, may she
that's
rest
my
in
book.
peace.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's kind of like you have to understand and know that the black child that is coming up has already superseded you.
Wow.
Superseded you. And the way
And you can't be intimidated by
you
that.
cannot be intimidated by it. You have to love it.
Yeah.
You can't quiet it. You can't
Yeah.
shun it. You have to identify why that spirit, that soul was given to you and allow it to grow, period.
Yeah. And speak to it. Provide
Period.
for it, and give it all the essentials
That's
that
what
it
we have to
needs.
do. When a parent is incarcerated, tell that baby the truth developmentally.
Yeah.
Let them go and visit if they feel that's what they want to do, but also explain to them every step of the way what's going on.
Yeah.
There's books out there, the prison alphabet.
Yeah.
I have books that are
Yeah.
out there explaining this to these sort of children. At the end of the day, it's like, let them understand and get that knowledge so that they could ask the questions that they need to grow.
Right. So going, because obviously we've zeroed in on the source of, we can actually implement true change through our youth. But how does one who's ever, like, they had an incarcerated parent, or even youth being incarcerated themselves, how do they deal with society putting these stigmas on them? Because ultimately and again, I don't want to place blame on the man or society or the white man, but ultimately, again, when you're in a system that wasn't designed for you, or was designed to treat you as property, and for the oppressors to succeed off of all of your downfalls, how do you combat that when you're dealing with that daily?
Rip that label off. No label.
Really?
No label. Take the label off. No frills. Like, nobody don't want to eat no frills. It's
Right.
only when you have a label that people are able to identify you.
Right.
Don't let them identify you. Those labels don't stick. You have to be able to take that in on your own.
Can a kid understand that though?
Absolutely.
Even because we create
Absolutely.
labels from elementary school, from
Absolutely.
special ed to the kids that be in the
Look at those
the class that get out
16-year-olds.
early.
You got 16-year-olds that are graduating undergrad. Stop playing.
That's true. That's true.
Kids are wise.
So
Kids
then what
are
about the label of mental health? That's also become like this popular rhetoric.
I think the issue is that we do it in our households to control, because we don't want to parent.
Right.
That's when the stigma and the labels on the outside cause issues.
Right.
In that locus and in that house, when you that one-to-one, you and that baby, you and those
Right.
children, that is the most important teaching that happens.
Right.
And that's where it has to be label free.
Right.
Now, on the outside, when that label comes on, you still feeling yourself. You know what you are.
Right.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but
Yeah.
words don't never harm me.
But
you know,
them
is what
joints
they
be-
say.
they
but them
sting
joints
a
hurt.
little bit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
hurt. But you take them, you bring those home.
Right.
And we clear those wounds together. What's happening is that the kids are being stigmatized, abused, and labeled in their houses, and then going out and being stigmatized, abused, and labeled labeled outside.
Right.
Now they're coming home with cuts and wounds and bleeding to death.
Right. And so ultimately it goes back to that idea of what community really is, and it starts within the house.
Exactly.
So you can't worry about what's going outside your house. You got to control what's inside.
Yeah, you got to control the inside of your house. Who is that man that you making those babies with?
Right.
You know, what are those names and those self-fulfilling prophecies? Are you marrying that woman, or are you playing around? Are you educating?
You shooting at me right now.
Pow, pow, pow.
I'm feeling with you. I see where you're going
like I'm
with
telling you, like that old school stuff. I feel like we've gotten away from the reality of who we are. We've never needed a lot. Now we're to the point where we're measuring ourselves up against the masses and the higher and the echelons. We ain't never needed a lot. You give us some bread. We had a little household. We had our ciphers. We were chilling in our space. It wasn't until we started measuring up, like they say in criminology, the middle class measuring rod.
Right.
Measuring yourself up against a white individual. You've superseded it. So you're wasting your time. Those labels could never stick to you.
Right.
Because they not you. They never were.
Ooh.
But once I get you to believe that, now you working for me. I ain't even got to do my job.
Hey, that's it right there. I think you just answered the whole thing, and taking it back to the core of like, don't measure me based off of what your society sees as success.
Yes.
Like we've already overcome all of that. You know what I mean? Because you already set me up to fail, and I'm not failing.
Yeah.
You know, and that idea of mass incarceration is just their answer to what to do with it's population control.
Yes.
You know, at the end of the day, and you know, being 13% of the population, but having so much influence over the entire culture is what they fear. So to be able to, if we can get to that level of you know, economic success, whether it's through capitalism or even just being able to build and enrich our communities, it goes back to taking care of our own and building our own, so that we're not applying their measurement process. You know what I mean? We have our own, and through community, once again, you know, and I think you put me up on a book that I got to check out. Is it Building Community or
Teaching Community?
Teaching Community, to where
The Pedagogy of Hope, Bell Hooks.
Yeah, so I think, and if you can elaborate on that just a little bit in closing, about the idea of, okay, we know it starts with the children, it starts within the household, but then now how does it expand into community?
We got to come back together. You know, we have to come back, and
not on some like kumbaya.
Not like that. Not like that. Really just triangulation is a term we use in research all the time as criminologists. It's one of the things that makes your study more rigorous and applicable to other populations. Really what it means is just connecting the dots.
Right.
Your brothers are locked up, you connect with those individuals that are locked up. You have educated brothers and sisters, y'all connect. You have celebrity individuals, look, you connect into education. You are connecting to the prisons. Once you connect the dots, then that's where the power comes in. That's where the revenue comes in. One of the things we do is we like to understand one piece of something, and where it gets uncomfortable, you disconnect.
Right.
But you don't have the 360 degrees.
Right.
You got to keep going around just like the sun. You have to create that heat, and the way you create it is not kumbaya, but respecting one another.
Right. That's and just for a minute, I think, I mean, just even this experience here, you have to speak on the power of the Black woman in the community, in the family, and in the household, because, I mean, you exemplify it yourself, but a lot of time, especially, you know, we've lost sight of the strength and, you know, the Black woman being more than just the backbone, but being the the backbone, the spine, the nervous system that keeps it all going, because ultimately when our males are incarcerated, you know, the Black women are left alone to raise the children. But then at the same time, it becomes this cycle of what that young person then is looking for. And the strength of a Black woman is something throughout centuries has always withstood and withheld its own. But I feel like now sometimes we might be losing sight of that because of what society perpetuates and wants to water down the importance and the strength of a Black woman.
Yeah, mass incarceration falls on the shoulders of the Black woman, period.
Wow.
There are studies that have come out.
That's a statement. Say it again, Doc.
Mass incarceration falls on the shoulders of the Black woman, period.
Yeah. You gotta have some broad shoulders to bear that, though. You know what I mean?
At the end of the day, it's the grandmothers that are taking care of these children.
That's a lot of responsibility on the black woman.
A lot of responsibility, and she's juggling it. You talking about the black woman being shackled, women shackled during incarceration when they give birth. Wow. You talking about individuals who 70% of the time when they are incarcerated are the sole caregiver of the children, living in the household, living with that baby, period.
Right.
You holding that down. You talking about the women that are putting commissary and money in individuals' prison commissary 20, 30 different years in a row.
Yeah. Heartbroken because she had to not only see her man incarcerated, but now she sees her child incarcerated because he followed in the footsteps.
And now she's incarcerated, but she's just out, so nobody's paying attention to her.
Right.
When the man gets incarcerated, the full family is incarcerated. When the woman is incarcerated, the community is incarcerated. When the family is incarcerated, the world is incarcerated.
Preach. Teach. That's what that is, because that is such a simple concept. But it's almost like it's set up. They placed it there for it to be that way. You know,
strategically. Strategically. And criminology, you know, we look at it, criminologists, no shade. I feel like you have to look at the bad, but also you need to look at the good. I'm for balance. So at the end of the day, in criminology, it's real negative. Like, we looking at why you committing crime. We're looking at, you know, the types of crimes that you committed. We looking at why you stressed out and what you do as a result of stress or strain. We're looking at how are you labeled and how those labels stick. The labels don't ever end or go anywhere. There's no term for them.
Right.
But we don't look at those individuals, families that are maintained during incarceration.
Right.
Those families that are holding it down for 15 years, they come out and they sometimes better off than what they were before. We're not looking at those children who were born in prison and now have PhDs.
Right.
We're not looking at those individuals that return from incarceration and are taking over the world, so to speak, from the ground up. We don't look at that sort of stuff because then you'll have something to look up to. And then when you hit me with that label, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about?
Right.
What you talking about? My mother ain't what?
Right.
She is in an Inside Out program at Howard University. What your mama doing? What's she reading?
Right.
So you won't have to fight with your hands. You can fight with your words when you know your story, when you know what's going on, when you know success or resiliency on your side. What they leave us with in the theory is nothing.
Right.
So we know you going to square up. Because that's what helps you survive.
Right.
You've been fighting your brothers and sisters in the house, people in your community, so you sharp with it.
Right. Exactly. So in conclusion, the answer to mass incarceration is community and uplifting your own community, and that the center of the community is the black woman.
Yeah, I mean, you got to go to the facilities. If you go on a visiting day to a prison on a day that women get visits, I don't care where you go in the world, you may see 2 or 3 people. When it's time for the male side of visits, it's wrapping all around the facility. And that's everywhere. I have students just go and sit in the parking lot on the day of visitation as just part of the class, period. Like, I just need you to know.
Just to see it.
The bars that you see, the barbed wires in going around the facility are put there to keep individuals out.
Right.
Just like it is to keep individuals in. Go and visit a facility.
Yeah.
Go see what's going on.
Yeah.
How do you address a problem that you ain't even get up close and personal with?
Yeah.
You don't have to go there to learn about it. You can see it, and it's just not written in books. You know, prison, you know, it has a spirit. The
Dr. Muhammad experience to actually really go and see, it's kind of dope because you put pedagogy and a curriculum around it. But I have yet to see whether it's a student, an incarcerated individual on the inside, or even, you know, from the CEOs to the warden, this experience of going inside, it affects everyone. And you watch them change. You watch their perception change. Even mine personally, going inside. Like, again, I've always been anti-prison, will continue to be anti-prisons, but to be able to work within a system that I'm against, even that process is like, okay, if I can go, if I know I don't like anything about this, but I can go in and watch individuals' lives be changed and inspired from the women, the children, the brothers that are in there as well. It's like, all right, well, we can roll up our sleeves and make a real change instead of just sitting back outside talking about the problem.
Exactly. It's called skill.
Right.
It's not about always being in your comfort zone. You know, individuals like, Doc, you know, I'm not for the facilities. You know, I'm not going to go to a facility, but all our brothers there. So what you going to do? Stand on the outside and talk about it? Like, I'm going in the building.
Yeah, let's
You
go
know, I
in
need
there.
to know what's going on so that you can fix it. Like, tell me anything that was ever taken over that wasn't done up close and personal.
That was done from the outside. You can't take over a building from the outside.
You got to learn it. You got to know it. You need to
Yeah.
know the inner workings. And at the end of the day, it's a scary thing. You know, a lot of individuals are like, you know, I'm going to stand on the outside and, you know, kind of play this position. I don't fault anybody for that. I feel like, again, we need to triangulate and hold hands with those individuals that are on the out, those individuals that are on the inside. But we need to get more Black sisters also inside of facilities and doing programming and being able to see the things that are going on. They had, that community piece is big, and that's what they broke when they destroyed us. We had our Black Wall Street. We had our family. We wasn't putting our kids in school. We wasn't interested in that. We was at home nursing babies up to like 4 or 5 years. Babies coming out strong, not getting sick, so you're not even in the hospital. At the end of the day, we got to get back to that realness, that truth,
that community. Yo, I appreciate the time. We actually got to go into the facility right now.
Yeah.
So we, you know, this has been Cannon's class, but we definitely we putting our efforts where our mouth is, and we actually going inside right now and weekly and continuing to do it. And I mean, I appreciate you for the last few years of opening my eyes and allowing me to be a part of the Dr. Muhammad experience.
We got a long way to go, Nick.
She gonna make sure I get my doctorate.
Dr. Cannon. we got a long way to go, but
if it happens, she did it.
Yeah.
But
y'all heard that. Y'all heard that.
Yeah, when it happens.
When it happens.
Everyone, you know, all the books that we laid out there, we put a bunch of them out there. I know it's gonna be on the Cannon's class curriculum, but also that she in the field, mothering in the field. Make sure y'all pre-order that, and really goes back to the power of the Black woman, the power of the mother, the power of our community, and I'm inspired. I continue to be inspired, and I appreciate this time.
No problem.
Cannon's class, let's get it.